In 1915, as World War I tore Europe apart, Albert Einstein penned a letter kept secret for decades. In it, he revealed something about God that would shock anyone religious. He wrote, "Only the non-existence of God could excuse him for the suffering he allows." For over a century, that letter remained buried in academic archives, and there's a reason for that, because what Einstein discovered about divine justice contradicts everything religions teach. And you need to hear this now. Why do good people suffer? Why are innocent children born with terminal illnesses? Why are entire families wiped out by natural disasters while criminals live in mansions? This question has haunted humanity for millennia, and the answers we've been given are all convenient lies. You've been taught that God is just, that he rewards the good and punishes the bad, that if you're suffering, it's because you did something wrong, or because God is testing you, or because your rewards will come in heaven. These explanations offer comfort for a moment, but Einstein knew they were childhood fantasies, and he spent decades seeking the real truth. What I'm about to reveal in the next few minutes will challenge everything you believe about justice, about God, and about the meaning of suffering. This isn't a religious theory. It's not a philosophical opinion. It's the conclusion of one of the greatest geniuses in human history after examining the evidence with the same precision he used to discover relativity. And the truth is far more profound than you imagine. To understand what Einstein discovered, we first need to destroy the illusion that's been implanted in us since childhood. The official narrative goes like this: there exists an all-powerful and perfectly good God. He created the universe and established moral rules. Those who follow the rules are rewarded. Those who disobey are punished. The suffering of the innocent is a mystery, but God has a grander plan that we cannot comprehend, trust, and obey. This story has dominated humanity for thousands of years. It's in every organized religion. It's repeated in churches, mosques, synagogues, and temples around the world. Billions of people live and die believing it. But Einstein saw the loopholes. In 1915, the Great War was at its peak. Einstein lived in Berlin and witnessed the carnage firsthand. Young men in their 20s were sent to trenches where they died suffocated by poison gas. Families were torn apart by random bombings. Millions of innocent people suffered because of decisions made by politicians and generals. It was in this context that he wrote the letter to physicist Edgar Meyer. Einstein was processing the horror, and his scientific mind couldn't accept the religious explanations. If God is all-powerful, he can prevent suffering. If God is perfectly good, he wants to prevent suffering, but suffering exists on a massive scale. Therefore, either God isn't all-powerful, or he isn't perfectly good, or he simply doesn't exist in the way religions describe. This logic isn't new. Philosophers call it the problem of evil. It has existed for over 2,000 years. But what Einstein did was different. He didn't stop at the problem. He found an answer. And that answer begins with a philosopher who lived 300 years before him. His name was Baruch Spinoza, a Dutch Jew, expelled from his community in 1656 for ideas considered heretical. Spinoza proposed something radical. God and nature are the same thing. There isn't a God separate from the universe, sitting on a throne, judging humans and distributing rewards and punishments. God is the universe. God is the laws of physics. God is the totality of everything that exists. Einstein read Spinoza at 17, and he was never the same. In 1929, a rabbi named Herbert Goldstein sent a telegram to Einstein, asking directly, "Do you believe in God?" Einstein's response went down in history. He said, I believe in Spinoza's God, who reveals himself in the orderly harmony of what exists, not in a God who concerns himself with fates and actions of human beings. Read that response again. Einstein wasn't an atheist. He believed in something, but that something had nothing to do with the God of religions. Spinoza's God doesn't judge, doesn't reward, doesn't punish, doesn't perform miracles, doesn't answer prayers, doesn't have favorites, doesn't care if you go to church on Sunday or if you steal from your neighbor. Spinoza's God is the mathematical order of the universe, the laws of physics, the fundamental structure of reality. And here is the first great revelation that changes everything. If God is nature, and nature operates by impersonal laws, then there is no cosmic justice. Gravity doesn't ask if you're a good person before pulling you down. Cancer doesn't choose its victims based on moral merit. Earthquakes don't spare saints and destroy sinners. The universe isn't judging you. It never was. This may seem depressing at first glance, but wait, because Einstein didn't stop here. He went deeper, and what he found next is even more surprising. If there isn't a God distributing justice, why do we feel so strongly that there should be? Why does injustice revolt us? Why do we cry when good people suffer? Einstein had an answer for that too. In 1930, he published an essay in the New York Times magazine called Religion and Science. In it, he described what he called the cosmic religious feeling. It was an experience he knew well, a sense of awe before the order of the universe, a feeling that there is something larger than ourselves, a perception of connection with the totality of existence. Einstein said that this feeling was the highest form of religiosity, higher than worshipping a personal God, higher than following commandments for fear of punishment or hope of reward. And here is the crucial point that almost no one mentions. The feeling that there should be justice doesn't come from an external God. It comes from within us. It's part of our nature. We evolved as social beings who depend on cooperation to survive. Our brains developed circuits that make us feel outrage at injustice, empathy for the suffering of others, a desire for a world where things make sense. Justice isn't a cosmic law waiting to be discovered. It's a human creation, an aspiration, an ideal for which we strive. And this completely changes how we should react to suffering. If you believe in a God who distributes justice, the suffering of the innocent becomes an impossible mystery to solve. You spend your life trying to justify the unjustifiable, inventing explanations for a problem that has no solution within that paradigm. But if you understand what Einstein understood, suffering ceases to be a theological mystery. It becomes a fact of existence, a characteristic of a universe governed by impersonal laws. And your answer ceases to be why God allowed this, and starts to be what can I do about it. Einstein chose this second approach, and he lived according to it. When Jewish refugees were fleeing Nazi Germany, Einstein used his fame to get visas and jobs for hundreds of them. When scientists were being persecuted, he wrote letters of recommendation. When the atomic bomb was used on Hiroshima, he dedicated the rest of his life to campaigns for peace. He didn't wait for divine justice. He created human justice. But there's still a crucial piece missing from this story, something that connects the suffering with a larger purpose. And for this, we need to go back to the philosopher who transformed Einstein, Baruch Spinoza. Spinoza didn't just redefine God, he redefined freedom, and this redefinition explains why good people suffer without it being unjust. Most people believe they have free will, that they make independent choices, that they're responsible for their actions in a way that justifies rewards and punishments. This belief is the foundation of almost all moral and legal systems in the world. Einstein rejected this completely. In 1929, in an interview for the Saturday Evening Post, Einstein quoted another phrase that changed his life. It came from the philosopher Arthur Schopenhauer. Man can do what he wants, but he cannot want what he wants. Think about that for a moment. You can choose to raise your arm now, but you didn't choose to want to raise your arm. That desire arose from previous causes, your genetics, your history, the context of this moment. Every thought you have is the result of causes you didn't control. Einstein said explicitly, "I am a determinist. I do not believe in free will. Human beings are like the moon. The moon can't say, 'I have my own light.' It reflects the light of the sun. We can't say, 'My actions are entirely mine.' Our actions are reflections of everything that came before. And here is the devastating connection to the suffering of the innocent. If there's no real free will, then the concept of deserving completely collapses. The good person doesn't deserve reward because they didn't freely choose to be good. The bad person doesn't deserve punishment because they didn't freely choose to be bad. We are all products of forces we don't control. This means that expecting a God who distributes justice based on merit is like expecting gravity to work differently for people you like. It's a childhood fantasy, projected onto a universe that operates by other principles. But if merit doesn't exist, what does exist? Einstein had an answer, and it goes against everything that modern individualism teaches. In 1930, the same year he published about the cosmic religious feeling, Einstein wrote a text called "What I Believe." In it, there's a phrase that almost no one quotes: "Man is here for the sake of other men, above all for those on whose smiles and well-being our own happiness depends." Einstein didn't believe that we exist to accumulate individual rewards. He believed that we exist in connection with each other, and that the meaning of life comes from that connection, not from some cosmic scoring system. And that completely changes how we understand suffering. In a 1950 letter to a father who had lost his son, Einstein wrote something that summarizes his entire philosophy on existence. He said, "A human being is a part of the whole that we call the universe, a part limited in time and space. He experiences himself, his thoughts and feelings, as something separated from the rest, a kind of optical delusion of his consciousness. This delusion is a prison for us, restricting us to our personal desires and to affection for a few persons nearest to us. Our task must be to free ourselves from this prison by widening our circle of compassion to embrace all living creatures and the whole of nature in its beauty." Read that again. That's Einstein's answer to suffering. There isn't a separate God judging whether you deserve to suffer or not. You are part of the universe. The universe isn't happening to you. The universe is happening through you. You are the way the cosmos experiences itself, at this specific point in space and time. And when you understand that deeply, something changes. The suffering doesn't disappear. Good people will continue to suffer. Innocent children will continue to be born with diseases. Disasters will continue destroying families. The universe operates by impersonal laws that don't take into account our concepts of justice, but the suffering ceases to be a personal affront, an undeserved punishment, evidence that God has abandoned you or that the universe is cruel. The suffering becomes part of the experience of being, something that the universe experiences through you. And your response to that suffering so becomes your unique contribution to the totality of existence. Einstein didn't run from suffering. He lost friends to Nazism, saw his work used to create weapons of mass destruction, faced political persecution, spent his last years in relative solitude, working on theories that most physicists rejected. But he maintained something that few manage to maintain, a sense of awe, a connection with something larger than himself, what he called the cosmic religious feeling. And maybe that's the real secret he discovered about divine justice. There isn't a God distributing rewards and punishments. That's the bad news for anyone who expected the universe to work like a celestial court. But there is something deeper, an order, a harmony, a mathematical structure that governs everything, from the galaxies to the atoms. And we are part of that order. We aren't separate from it. We aren't being judged by it. We are it. The universe isn't unfair to you. The universe is you. And when you internalize that, the question changes. It's no longer, why does God allow good people to suffer? The question becomes, given that suffering exists, what do I choose to do with my existence? Einstein chose to use his mind to understand the universe, chose to use his fame to help refugees, chose to dedicate his last years to fighting for peace. He didn't wait for justice. He created meaning, and you can do the same. That was the discovery that Einstein made about God and justice. It's not as comfortable as the religious stories. It doesn't promise rewards in heaven for those who suffer on earth. It doesn't offer a cosmic villain to blame when things go wrong, but it offers something more valuable, the truth. And with the truth comes the freedom to stop waiting for the universe to be fair and to start creating the justice you want to see in the world. In 1954, a year before he died, Einstein wrote his most famous letter about God. It was to the philosopher Eric Gutkind. This letter sold at auction for almost $3 million in 2018. In it, Einstein said, "The word God is for me nothing more than the expression and product of human weaknesses. The Bible is a collection of honorable but primitive legends." Harsh words, but Einstein wasn't a nihilist. He didn't think life was meaningless. He believed that meaning comes from something other than what religions teach. Around the same time, he also said, "The most beautiful thing we can experience is the mysterious. It is the source of all true art and science. He to whom this emotion is a stranger, who can no longer pause to wonder and stand wrapped in awe, is as good as dead." Einstein passed away in April of 1955. His final days were spent at Princeton Hospital. He refused surgery for the aneurysm that was killing him, saying he wanted to go when his time came, that he had done his part. The night before he died, he was working on equations for a theory that would unify all the forces of physics. 12 pages of complex mathematics were found on his bedside table. Right until the end, he was seeking the underlying order of the universe. His last words were in German. The nurse didn't understand German. They were lost forever, but his ideas remain. If God is just, why are the good punished? Einstein's answer is that the question is wrong from the start. There isn't a personal God doling out divine justice. There is a universe operating by laws, and we are part of that universe. The suffering of the innocent is not a glitch in the divine system. It's a feature of a cosmos that operates without favoritism. And our response to that suffering is what defines who we are. You can spend your life asking why God allowed it, or you can accept that the universe doesn't work that way and start creating the change you want to see. Einstein chose the second option, and maybe that's the greatest lesson he left us. Don't expect justice from heaven. Create justice on earth. Don't ask why the universe allows suffering. Ask what you can do to alleviate it. Don't seek a God who rewards your goodness. Be good because it's the only worthy response to existence. That's what Einstein discovered. That's what he tried to teach us. And that's what organized religions have a vested interest in hiding. Because if people understood that there is no cosmic judge, they would stop obeying out of fear. They would stop donating out of hope for reward. They would stop accepting injustice as a divine mystery. They would start questioning. They would start acting. They would start creating the world they want instead of waiting for it to be given to them. And that is dangerous for any institution that depends on obedience. Einstein knew this. That's why he was careful when talking about religion in public. But in his private letters, the truth shines through. There's something else I need to tell you, something that connects everything we've discussed so far to your personal life. Remember that 1950 letter where Einstein wrote about the optical illusion of consciousness? That letter was sent to Michael Thompson, a father who had lost his son. Michael was devastated. He was searching for answers. He wanted to understand why his son had been taken from him. Einstein didn't offer religious platitudes. He didn't say that his son was in a better place. He didn't promise that they would meet in heaven. Instead, he offered a completely different perspective. He explained that the feeling of separation that we feel, the idea that you are you and the universe is something out there, is an illusion, a limitation of our consciousness. In reality, Einstein said, you are part of the universe experiencing itself. Your son was too, and that experience, that consciousness, isn't something that can be destroyed. It's part of the fundamental structure of everything that exists. It's not the personal immortality that religions promise. It's not you floating on clouds, playing a harp for eternity. It's something deeper and more true. The energy that makes up you, the information that defines you, the consciousness that experiences your life, all of it is a manifestation of the universe. And the universe doesn't cease to exist when one of its parts changes shape. This perspective doesn't eliminate the pain of loss. Einstein knew that. He also lost people he loved, but it offers a different context for processing that pain. If you believe in the traditional religious narrative, the death of someone you love raises impossible questions. Why did God allow it? Was it punishment? Was it a test? Did my loved one go to heaven or hell? These questions can haunt a person for the rest of their life. But if you understand what Einstein understood, death becomes a transformation, not a destruction. The person you loved was a temporary expression of the universe. That expression has changed, but the fundamental substance, the energy, the mathematical order that underlies everything continues. Your loved one didn't go somewhere. Your loved one was a form of the universe and now is other forms. This might seem cold if you're used to promises of eternal reunion, but for many people it's more comforting than the alternative, because it doesn't depend on following the right rules. It doesn't depend on belonging to the right religion. It doesn't depend on anything other than the basic fact that you exist. And to exist means to be part of something infinitely larger than yourself. Einstein called this cosmic religious feeling. It was the experience of awe before the order of the universe, the feeling that you are not alone, not because there's a heavenly Father watching over you, but because you are literally made of the same stuff as the stars. You are the universe looking at itself, and when you have that perspective, the question of why the good suffer loses much of its force. Good and evil are categories that we created, useful for organizing human societies, important for our survival as a species, but they are not fundamental laws of the cosmos. The universe doesn't recognize these categories. It simply operates according to its laws. An earthquake isn't evil. Cancer isn't unjust. Loss isn't punishment. They are events in a universe that operates by impersonal principles, and our response to those events, not the events themselves, is what defines our character. Einstein lived this philosophy. When he could have retreated into bitterness in the face of the injustices he suffered, he chose to remain open. When he could have used his genius only for personal glory, he chose to help others. When he could have passively accepted the state of the world, he chose to fight for change, not because he expected divine reward, but because it was the only way of living that made sense to him. You might be thinking that this philosophy is easy to embrace for a rich and famous genius. It's easy to talk about accepting suffering when you have a privileged life. But Einstein didn't have a life without pain. He fled Nazi Germany, losing practically everything he had built. Friends were killed. His eldest son developed schizophrenia and spent a large portion of his life in institutions. His marriage ended in a bitter divorce. He was investigated by the FBI because of his political stances, and he spent the last 20 years of his life being ignored by most physicists, who considered his work on unified field theory a dead end. Albert Einstein knew suffering. He wasn't some distant observer, philosophizing about someone else's pain. He lived through profound losses, and yet he maintained what he called a cosmic religious feeling. He still saw beauty in the order of the universe. He still found meaning in existence. That's what makes his perspective on justice so powerful. It's not some abstract theory from someone who's never suffered. It's the conclusion of a man who stared into the abyss of human injustice and still chose to see meaning. Maybe you're watching this because you're going through something tough right now. Maybe you've lost someone. Maybe you're facing an illness. Maybe your life has fallen apart in a way that feels absolutely unfair. If that's you, I understand why you're searching for answers. And Einstein's answer might seem unsatisfying at first. He's not going to tell you that everything will be all right. He's not going to promise that your rewards are waiting in heaven. He's not going to offer up some cosmic villain for you to blame. What he offers is something different, a way of seeing the universe that doesn't depend on cosmic justice to make sense. A perspective where you're not a victim of a capricious God, but a temporary expression of something infinite. A philosophy where meaning doesn't come from the top down, but from the inside out. You've made it this far into this video. You've heard ideas that contradict practically everything society teaches about God and justice. Most people tune out when their beliefs are challenged. But you didn't tune out. That says something about you. Einstein wrote that 99% of people accept the official narrative without questioning. They accept what their families teach them, what their religious communities repeat, what's comfortable to believe. But there's 1% that seeks the truth, even when it's uncomfortable. If you're listening to this, you're probably part of that 1%. You're not satisfied with easy answers. You want to understand how the universe really works, not how we wish it worked. And that's rare and valuable. Before we conclude, I need to ask you for something. This channel exists to reveal truths that are deliberately hidden. Truths about the nature of reality, about what great thinkers really believed, about what institutions don't want you to know. Producing this content takes time and research, and it's constantly attacked by algorithms that favor superficial entertainment. If you value this kind of content, if you want more people to have access to these ideas, please consider supporting it through Super Thanks. It's not an obligation, but every bit of support allows me to dedicate more time to researching and creating videos like this, and it means you're voting with your money for a type of content that rarely finds space on the internet. Now, to the conclusion that Albert Einstein reached about divine justice. If God is just, why are the good punished? The question assumes that there is a personal God distributing justice. Einstein concluded that there isn't. What exists is a universe operating by impersonal laws. These laws don't recognize good and evil. They don't reward or punish. They simply are. That doesn't mean life is meaningless. Quite the opposite. It means that meaning comes from us. We are the ones who create justice. We are the ones who choose to alleviate suffering. We are the ones who decide what our existence will represent. Einstein didn't wait for the universe to be fair. He worked to create a better world. He helped refugees. He fought for peace. He dedicated his mind to understanding the underlying order of everything that exists. And he found in that a deeper meaning than any promise of heavenly reward could offer. Justice isn't a cosmic law, it's a human aspiration, and it's up to us to make it real. That's Einstein's answer. It's not comfortable, but it's true, and the truth, in the end, is more valuable than any comforting fantasy. Do you agree with Einstein, or do you think he was wrong? Comment below. I want to know your opinion. Do you think there's cosmic justice, or do we create meaning? Comment justice if you believe there's a larger plan, or meaning if you agree that purpose comes from us. And if you have a personal story about injustice that changed your perspective, share it in the comments. I'll respond to everyone in the first 2 hours.